Yeah, it would make more sense that he would remember after. Oh, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Right.
Oh, well, this is the path we're on now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's done is done. You can't throw her in now.
Right.
It's just, oh, sorry, we changed the path. Bye.
Yeah.
Toss her in.
Much different movie.
That's a very different film.
Hello and welcome to Steam Powered Movies. I am Mike, and I am here with my co-host.
Hello, my name is Dana Fraedrich. I am a steampunk and fantasy author. I'm a creator of many things and doer of lots of other whatchamacallits.
Yes, whatchamacallits and doodads and doohickeys, of which there are several in the film that we watched today.
There are.
Because for this podcast, Steam Powered Movies, we watch a steampunk movie, and then we talk about it. And today, I'm so excited. We are kicking off the new year right with a banger. We watched one of my favorite franchise films, the conclusion to the Back to the Future trilogy, Back to the Future Part 3. It was released in 1990, produced by Steven Spielberg, directed by Robert Zemeckis, starring Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. And we watched it and had some fun. Dana, how was your experience?
It was great. Also, I love seeing you because you've been so excited for this. This has been on our list since the beginning, and I feel like you've just been waiting for its moment.
I have, and this feels like a good one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're kicking off 2024. You know, thinking about time and new times.
Mm-hmm.
So we watched a movie about time travel.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
It's. I am curious. As I kind of already said, one of my favorite film franchises of all time. I watched this film many times as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
We had all three on VHS.
Nice.
And watched them so much. Kind of, what's your history and background with this movie? And you can broaden that to the franchise. And, you know, had you even seen this one? I'm not sure if you'd seen this one.
I had seen it. It was years and years and years ago. I think I'm trying to remember if my late father was a big fan of these or not. Like, I remember this film being on in our house.
Right.
But like, there were very few films that, because my mom was like never really like a big movie buff, but there were like a few films that my dad was always like, you have to see this film. And some of them I did not enjoy at all. But this was one I feel like was on. And maybe that's just because like TBS seems to play it all the time.
Yeah, it's one of those, shows up on cable TV or, you know, certainly did a lot in like the 90s and 2000s and stuff. Yeah. So
I don't really remember if this was like my dad like raised me on Queen and Pink Floyd. I remember that being a far bigger influence on me than like many films.
Right.
So,
right. Not a big like film household. I
not
guess,
really.
Yeah.
Like we watched movies, but like never like with a critical eye, really.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, for reference for me, I didn't see a lot of films growing up. We had like 30 movies on VHS, and this was one of them, and I watched them all like 100 times each.
Right, yeah, because that was all you had available.
That's what we had, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't say like where this came into my life beyond like sort of peripherally.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's actually funny watching it now as an adult because this movie is really great fun. I actually like didn't realize
they all
how
are.
fun it was.
Yeah, they're all fun. This was Robert Zemeckis, I think, in his like best phase when he was making these films and some of his other stuff from the 90s.
I know you've listened to a podcast about like all the films of Robert Zemeckis. Like, what else has he done? Because I don't know directors a lot of times.
Done quite a few things that you would recognize. And I am going to tell you some of those films because I don't trust my memory off the top of my head. I'm going to look at a list here and stall until it loads because that's what we're doing.
This is becoming a recurring segment on this podcast. Mike stalls until he finds the information he wants.
And then, of course, when I want it, the internet doesn't cooperate with me.
Oh, you just turn Wi-Fi off.
And it's...
You just abandon the Wi-Fi.
Stuff is not loading, and this is incredible content right here. We're just going to keep all this in. This is going to be...
every riveting syllable.
Part of the show. This is all part of the show. It's to see what my brain comes up with. Okay, he did Forrest Gump and Contact and Flight. He did The Witches, that recent one that we saw.
Oh, right, with Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, Allied. He did Polar Express.
Oh, he did that.
Yep.
Interesting.
Beowulf.
The weird one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Weird. That was his like weird motion capture bad animation.
He was really
phase.
trying to be into that technology.
Yeah. Matchstick Men.
Wasn't that that was a con movie.
Yep. It was about a con. Yep.
Yeah.
Castaway.
I feel like you would like Matchstick Men.
Castaway is another really good one.
Oh, Castaway is great. It's hard to watch, but it's great.
I did like Matchstick Men. We saw it in the theater together when it came out.
I remember like you were into it.
Yeah. No, so those are like some of his movies that you've heard of. But we'll get into it a little bit more, I think, of some of the stylistic stuff that I think he does really, really well that really shines in this movie. But again, with your connection to this film, it's a little bit weird that we're covering this because it's the third in a trilogy.
Yeah. Although, can I just say,
sure,
right off the bat,
you can say whatever you want.
Pepper Noose.
Okay.
Okay.
Also, what else?
So I just want to say, this film does a really, really good job of reminding you what happened in the last one, which I have to say, amongst franchise films, I feel like they've just started to be like, whatever, if you didn't see the last one,
right,
too bad. Because like the Harry Potter films were like that. The Avengers or movies or whatever, the Marvel ones are all like that. And so often you're just like, oh my gosh, who's that person? What did they do? But this one, like, they gave you a review. Thank you, film.
Yeah, basically there was a previously on at the very beginning.
Because it's been years since I've seen either of the other two as well.
Luckily, there aren't a ton of characters in these films that you have to like keep track of. Really, it's
all
mostly...
the more reason that maybe some of those other films should be doing this. But anyway,
yeah, it's Marty and Doc, and then obviously he has a reason to recap the plot to Doc in the beginning because that version of Doc in 1955 doesn't know what happened in the second movie.
It's just being really nice consideration of the audience.
Do you know what the plot is to the Back to the Future films, roughly?
I remember that they go back to 1955. His mom makes out with him. They do the under the sea dance. Not
tries
necessarily
to make out
in
with
this
him.
order.
I don't think they actually make out.
Oh, that's right. He's like, no, thank you. Biff tries to assault her, punches him, and then he's like, gotta go back.
Gets his dad to save her.
Oh, right.
There's that whole thing.
So they can get together. That's right.
Yeah, he has
so
to
he
get
like
his parents
parent
back
traps
together.
them, kind of.
Yep.
And then in the second one, you find out that like old Biff, when they go to the future, gets a hold of the sports record books, and he changes the future by like giving that to young Biff, and young Biff makes all those winning bets.
Yep.
And then the future is like a burning trash pile.
Yep.
And they have to fix it.
Yep.
That is my
that's pretty good
synopsis.
Yeah. And they fix it by, and I actually had to think about this in my head to remind myself like how we got to where we were, why is Marty back in 1955 at the start of this movie? Because he had to go back to 1955 to steal the almanac from young Biff and then burn it. And then he burned it, and then Doc got zapped by the lightning and sent back to the past, and then he got that letter immediately. And that seems the end of 2, which set up this one. And then obviously we saw Doc reads that letter in its entirety at the beginning of this one. So we're like fully caught up on what old Doc is up to in the Wild West, being a blacksmith.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. Yeah. So yeah, it's a little bit convoluted, but they do catch you up on it.
As someone who doesn't really enjoy a time travel story, this one does really well.
Oh.
Like they do a nice job of keeping it pretty tidy. Like you see the scope of things in small details. And I like that kind of writing. All of the writing in this feels very tight.
Oh yeah.
It's very clean. I like it a lot. I'm honestly impressed. And have we lost that? I don't know. That's not fair because there are still some films like this, and I'm sure at the time it was the same, where they're just like a bunch of like loosely written films coming out, but this one withstood the test of time because it's so tightly written.
Yeah, and part of that is Zemeckis and his writing partner Bob Gale at the time. They did all these movies together, and they very like detailed did like plot outlines of everything. I was reading or listening to something that was talking about their process was like they would basically put scenes and things on 3x5 cards and like stick them in sequence.
Oh, I've
like,
seen that technique.
Yeah, that was the technique they followed.
Yeah.
And so they used that to like track everything that they were doing and lay it all out, and they could move stuff around and made sure that they were all like the setups and payoffs like in the right order, and everything that was paid off or needed later. Every Chekov's gun was placed earlier.
Okay. This is very interesting to me because the program I use to write books, it's called Scrivener. It's not like it's a really popular one. A lot of people know about it. But there's a corkboard function in Scrivener where you can literally do that. Like it's visually represented by 3x5 cards, like all of your chapters and stuff. And you can just scoot them around in that same way. You can make them different colors. You can do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, those guys, when they were writing together, it seems like they very much adhered to that. And it makes the story super tight. And that's the one of the things I really like. And again, maybe that's because I grew up on these films, that maybe that's why I like that style, because it's the kind of movies I watched growing up.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see like you had a standard set for you from a young age, and then from then on you were like, this is the point at which we're all aiming.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, totally random. Can we just all appreciate what good comedic actors both Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd are? Like,
fantastic.
Christopher Lloyd's feint in the beginning, where he sort of like does a bit of a spin when he goes down, incredible. Like when he like runs out of the saloon and like dunks his head in water, so good.
Yeah.
And Michael J. Fox, when he calls for the doc, like there's a certain panicky note in his voice where he's like, "Doc!"
No, they are fantastic. Yeah, they carry all three movies because they're just, they keep it so much fun while also giving like urgency and like setting stakes for stuff. You know, everything's always getting really heavy, you know? Great Scott.
Yeah. That's when you know stuff is getting real. Great Scott.
Yeah. And in this one, they reverse it, because in the first two films, it's Marty says, "This is getting heavy," and Doc says, "Great Scott." And there's a scene early in this one where they flip it.
See, not having watched the first two in so many years, I didn't know that was a thing. So good job.
I have a whole list of things that are callbacks to the previous films.
Oh boy, this might be a very dense episode, because I got a whole list of things too, but it's not about that.
Well, we'll get to all that.
Okay.
I'm sure. You already mentioned, and this is the thing I definitely want to talk about, was the time travel aspect of it, right? You say you're not like a huge time travel fan.
No, not really.
I am.
Yeah, I know you are.
And funny enough, these films, the Back to the Future films, actually don't follow my favorite method of time travel writing.
Okay.
Because
yours is like the cycle, right? Where like it goes in a circle. You can see yourself in the past doing the things.
My favorite way of time travel stories being written is when they are consistent. That like what happened always happened. You know, so if you obtain a time travel machine and you go back to the past and you do something, you're not changing what your future or was present is. You are doing the thing that was always done that leads to the sequence of events that leads to you obtaining the time travel machine and going back in the past.
Right.
But this one doesn't do that.
Okay.
Back to the Future is very like loosey-goosey with like, you can go back and change things and then the future changes. Like with the picture they had in this, the picture of the tombstone, where he sees that Doc, you know, dies on September 7th. So he goes back to September 2nd.
Do you remember on September 7th, you got shot in the back? Sorry. That song's stuck in my head for 2 days.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry. I completely derailed.
It's a completely wrong date, Dana.
I know.
Your joke doesn't make sense. Gosh.
Go on.
Right, so he takes the picture of the tombstone, then he carries that with him in the past, and then as they change things, the tombstone changes names or disappears.
Yeah.
I guess based on what's most likely to happen based on their current course.
Sure.
Because at one point it says Clint Eastwood on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, very loosey-goosey, but there is some consistency throughout it. Yeah. What would you think about like this version of a time travel movie with that loosey-goosiness?
I actually kind of like it. I feel like it's a little bit more creative than The Loop. I mean, I think The Loop is consistent.
Right.
The Loop is very clean. I can see how it's kind of an easier mode. I'm not going to say it's easy mode because I don't think writing time travel is easy at all. But I think maybe it's just a little bit of an easier mode. And it's just a little bit less messy. Like if you look at different time travel movies and you kind of look at a graph of like all the places they go, like Cloud Atlas is a mess.
Yeah, although that's not. Does anyone really time travel in that, or is it just consciousnesses existing in different periods?
I don't want to have this conversation. I was so annoyed.
You brought it up.
I know I did. So there's that. There's The Time Machine.
Yeah.
Which also.
Kind of loosey-goosey.
Kind of just whatever is happening, whatever. So I see it as The Loop, I mean, a way to keep things tidy.
Right.
And that's fine. But also, I feel like this method in Back to the Future 3, it's just a little more fun because you don't know how things are going to change. Like, what if, something you do, I don't know, like there's that picture of the gravestone and then there's like a statue of a guy on top of it. Like, how did that happen? And so I do kind of like the possibilities of this sort of time travel story.
Yeah. And I think actually in this one, it's more contained to like small details that get changed. Like the name of the ravine.
Oh, yeah.
On the map in the old timies, it's like Shonash Ravine, and Dr. Smith is like, oh, funny, they have the Clayton Ravine named this. And then they save Miss Clara Clayton from falling in the ravine. And Marty's like, oh, yeah, that's what it was named after her, that she fell in the ravine.
Yeah. Well, I like this because not everyone remembers everything all the time. They sort of remember it like after the fact, which I think is just a little bit more true to people.
Yeah.
Like that habit of people like, you offer to help just as someone is like finishing help, like doing a job or something. But it's just because brains are weird.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, there's no reason that you would like automatically remember why a ravine had a certain name in your town.
Right. It's a very like, as you know, Bob kind of thing to be doing that.
Yeah.
Like, did you know this ravine is named after a teacher that like went headfirst into it?
Right. Yeah, it would make more sense that he would remember after, oh, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Right.
Oh, well, this is the path we're on now.
Yeah. What's done is done. You can't throw her in now.
Right.
Just, sorry, we changed the past. Bye. Toss her in.
much different movie.
That's a very different film.
Oh, man. Well, before we get like too into the plot and stuff, let's talk about why did we watch this movie for this podcast? Because we watch steampunk movies.
Yeah.
Dana, what is steampunk about this movie?
I mean,
so many
not
things.
Having seen this film in so long, I was pleasantly surprised by so many things. Like, I'm not a gun person at all, but like the scope on that gun looked very cool where he can shoot the flea off of a dog's back at 500 yards.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So that was very cool. Like he had an ice maker, but of course this is like this enormous steam powered contraption for like a single cube of ice.
I had actually forgotten about that when we were watching the movie, and I was like, oh yeah, this ice maker that makes one cube.
Yeah. And then like the breakfast machine. When I was a kid, I wanted to like invent stuff like that because like I loved the Jetsons. I thought the Jetsons was very cool. You know me, I'm a sucker for gadgets. To this day, I'm a sucker for stupid gadgets.
I mean, who isn't? That is cool. Yeah.
So like the breakfast machine made me so happy.
And that's a recurring theme in these movies, actually, that Doc has one of those contraptions in whatever time he lives in.
It's the most important meal of the day.
Yeah. Or like a thing that like wakes him up in the morning and makes eggs or does whatever. Yeah.
I want one. I have a toaster oven that can make an egg, so at least I have that.
I think Robert Zemeckis is a big fan of Rube Goldberg contraptions.
Oh yeah.
Because not only are they featured in the films? But I think the plot itself is very Rube Goldberg-y. Like, the plot is basically like setting up a series of dominoes and then knocking the first one over.
Yeah.
And then that's just what happens.
Yeah.
You have, which is part of the clever writing, part of like what I like in these kinds of stories is having those things set up in a way that, oh yeah, this is why that happened because of that previous thing. We have, as far as steampunkness, it's set in the perfect time frame.
Yeah. 1880s are my era. I love it. That's like right smack dab in the middle. I love the fashion, which, by the way, there was so much on point fashion. I have so many notes.
Oh, okay.
Like there were, we had like all of the gadgets. We had the steam trains. We had just all of the fun goodness.
We had the invoking of Jules Verne.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about how, those books were only published like 10 years ago.
Yeah. You couldn't have been a little boy. So, and we had Victorian flower language, and it was so subtly done.
You're right. It was in there.
The flower that Doc Brown,
Emmett
puts on his lapel. So it's a lilac. Okay. And lilac and Victorian flower language, y'all, I'm obsessed. I have numerous books on this subject.
Can confirm she is.
Yes. The lilac stands for the first emotion of love.
Oh, okay.
And I will say, I thought it was lavender at first, and then I remember what lavender means, and it's absolutely not that.
Okay.
Lavender means distrust.
Oh, yeah, that's not going to be what Clara would give Emmett.
No, not at all. So I just, it's just like a little detail, and they never even bring attention to it. It's just really great for us nerds who are into this sort of thing.
Yeah. And I noticed, I bet you probably noted Clara's outfits throughout.
Oh my gosh. So many things. Are you ready?
Yes, let's do it.
So we got boots. We got bowler hats. We have the buttons up the front, which is a very important detail. I think I've talked about this before, where your buttons are determines your station in life.
Oh, right.
So if you've got buttons up the back, it means you can afford
people
staff
to do it for you.
Yeah. And then sometimes people would have false buttons up the back to be like, I'm so hoity-toity. And in fact, it's just for show, which is just so human.
Of course that would happen.
Yeah. She also she always has her hair up. That was a thing with Victorian ladies is you had your hair up when you were out in public. You never had this half hitch sort of thing. Your hair was up. It was done. You had a hat. Also, she had a little bitty bustle.
How could you forget your hat?
I know, exactly. They made a big deal about it. How could you do something so silly as that?
By the way, can we, since I referenced the mention of the McFly ranch there, where she's like, how could you forget your hat? Can we just talk about their accents for a second?
Oh, what do you mean about their accents? Mr. Clint Eastwood just came right in and he passed out right on our land.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the SNL sketch with Justin Timberlake.
Oh, where he brought sexy back?
Yeah. What do you mean he'll bring sexy back? It'll be gone and he'll bring it back again. That's what was constantly in my head.
That's the level of accent. You're absolutely right.
Michael J. Fox was doing his Irish accent.
Oh my gosh.
That's all I could think of.
And does no one notice the resemblance between them, Seamus and Marty? You have the same face. One just has more hair on it.
It's not. They're not supposed to look exactly the same.
They do though, because they're the same person.
Well, yeah, it's the same actor, but
we're just all pretending.
He's got a different hat and a beard and hair and stuff. Of course, we're pretending, Dana.
It's very much like the Clark Kent kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
So
well, you did have Mad Dog 10 and confused him. In the beginning,
That's
he walked in the saloon and he said, "Hey, McFly, thought I told you not to come around here."
Yeah,
which is another recurring trope in the films.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'll just keep referencing them as they come up.
Amazing.
Yeah, every single movie, there's a Biff walking in and saying, "Hey, McFly," into whatever saloon or soda fountain place there is. Yeah,
I'm sure it's not obnoxious at all.
No, of course
and
not.
He totally does the thing of oh, I was just joking, which is the fallback of all bullies everywhere.
Oh, right.
I was just joking.
Oh, right. When they're getting their guns taken at the entrance of the party. another recurring thing where Strickland came in to take their guns.
Yeah.
He was the sheriff because he was the principal at the school in 1955 and 85.
I remembered him from the movie because I thought that was kind of a fun detail.
Yeah. It's what I was thinking too, is I wondered if they were trying to set up, because when he's there at the end, the sheriff, he's got his son. He's like, remember that. Remember discipline and keeping people in line or whatever. I couldn't tell if they were just trying to set up that his son is actually the principal from the school, like 100 years later, if they're trying to set up that he's that old.
I don't think so.
Okay, probably not.
I think that might be a bridge too far.
Probably, you're right.
So, but yeah, back to the fashion.
Back to the fashion, yes.
So we had a little bitty bustle for Clara. Because, proper, really, really nice evening dresses would have had a much bigger bustle. But, she's a working lady. She's got, a job. She's not quite that hoity-toity. But she did have like a bow instead that kind of mimicked the size of one of those larger bustles. And, this impressed me so much. Like I said, whoever was on the costuming, oh my gosh, well done. So they even changed her attire when they came in on the train at the very end, when they're kind of like, oh, we built a train and now we're leaving again. We just want to let you know we're not dead.
Right.
Her sleeves were like the big puppy sleeves that were very iconic of the 1890s. So like 5 to 7 years later,
okay.
They had even updated her garments to reflect those fashion changes.
Okay. And that's a good little clue into how much time has passed.
Right.
Well, besides the kids' ages, I guess.
Sure.
Would probably clue you into.
Yeah. And if you ever watched the Back to the Future cartoon as a child, because I did.
Oh, no, I never got that.
I was into the cartoon.
Okay.
I was very into Saturday morning cartoons. Not a huge surprise at all for anyone who knows me.
No.
But yeah, I think the kids were about those same ages, like 5 to 7-ish years. I don't remember if we ever really got told, but
no.
Yeah.
They were just introduced as Jules and Vern.
Yeah.
Which is great.
So I specifically remember seeing an episode of the cartoon where they go back to like the Civil War era and they end up being on opposite sides. And it's very heartwarming.
Yeah.
Yeah. A whole bunch of people end up hugging and crying. It's sweet.
Oh, I mean, it is a sweet ending to this movie too.
Yeah.
Very sweet.
Yeah. Like they have to like both go on their way, but they have their peoples. And it's a very wicked steam engine at the end too.
Oh, I was going to say.
It was so cool.
I was going to say, I think we might have a hard time through all of the episodes of this podcast, past and future, finding a cooler steam-powered contraption than that time train.
I don't think so. I don't think that exists.
Yeah, I think this is the peak of steam-powered contraptions.
Yeah. And it is, in fact, steam because he tells us it runs on steam.
Yeah, we don't know how. Not important.
No. Yeah, just hand wave past that. He's a genius. He can make it happen.
Yeah, he can make super fire logs in the 1880s.
And it's like clean burning.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And he had just even the windows on the cab of the steam engine were very cool. Like it just, all of the details were so neat on this thing. I loved it so much.
Oh, yeah. Time train rules. Yeah, so it's incredibly steampunk, this whole film. It takes a little while to get into it, except do the setup in the beginning. But once we hit the Old West, it's like rocking and rolling with all the steampunk references and contraptions and all that stuff.
But also, I think like the comedy, I know we kind of touched on this already, but like the comedy is so good. Like they have one of my favorite tropes in here.
Oh, yeah?
The like when you're trying to schedule something trope. And it's like, I'll see you tomorrow. We can't do it tomorrow. We're busy. I mean, I'll see you the next day. We're also busy then. When are we free?
Yeah.
I just really love that trope.
Oh, and then
it's so dumb.
Then, Mad Dog's like 7 a.m. I like to do my killing before breakfast. And Marty's like trying to stall. He's like, 8 a.m. I do my killing after breakfast.
That's right.
Since we're negotiating here.
Right. Oh my gosh. It's really just delightful. I was so pleasantly surprised because like I did not remember most of it.
Yeah.
I remembered the thing with the clever use of the stove door.
Yeah.
Where Marty basically uses like a bulletproof vest.
Which is a reference from Back to the Future Part 2.
Is it?
It really is. Because in Back to the Future Part 2, in the alternate future where Biff has gotten the almanac and made all these super crazy bets and made $1 billion and turned Hill Valley into Las Vegas, but even worse. There's a scene where Marty walks into the penthouse suite where Biff is like in a hot tub and he's watching a movie on the wall, and it's an old Western where a guy pulls the thing that Marty then copies.
Oh, no way.
When he's in a shootout and he has like a metal protector under his big poncho.
Yeah.
And does the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
So that's where Marty got the idea, was from his adventures in the future.
Oh, that's fun.
Watching an old Western.
Gotcha. I also learned something.
Oh, what'd you learn?
So I didn't know that dude was a term from this era.
Oh, okay.
So like I ended up looking it up while we were watching. And yeah, apparently, according to the interwebs, that dude referred to people, usually men, who dressed richer than they were. And then Biff later says, like, all duded up. And I was like, this is so interesting. I did not know this. It's one of those things. It's kind of like the Tiffany problem, where it sounds way too modern for the era, but actually like history is stranger than fiction, and it's accurate.
Yeah, when I heard that too, I was like, wait, is that anachronistic? But then he said it again. And I was like, it must be from the time for real. And you did the research. So
my research is full of when does da-da-da come into use? Basically, so I can figure out, can I use the thing? Or like, was it invented yet? Because like the world I write in, it's of my own creation, but it's basically set in like 1880s technology.
Right.
So if it's from after that, I generally don't use it.
Yeah. Although it's funny how they use Marty's like anachronistic speech to confuse people.
Oh yeah.
Where he's like, lighten up, jerk, and they just look at each other like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then Biff's like, should I be offended? He like look at his henchmen like, what does he mean?
Yeah. And they're just like, just go on. Which
becomes a funny thing as it goes on, where basically I keep saying Biff, but Mad Dog, whatever.
He's the same person.
It's the same actor playing the same character, basically, is like looking to his henchmen like, he said a thing I don't understand. What is it? Or even like, what's the number after 6? Like looking over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like every detail in this. I think all the jokes and stuff are clever.
I can really see why it stands the test of time. There are some movies where I'm like, I don't really get it, but okay. But like this one I see.
Yeah, the one thing that doesn't completely hold up would be the Native American references and placements. It was of the time to call them Indians.
Yeah,
but
and there's still controversy on that. It's kind of one of those things of like, no one is actually asking the indigenous people, hey, what would you like? It's still a bunch of white people being like, oh, we can't do this anymore. Like we're just arbitrarily making this decision.
Yeah. I think it depends on who you ask.
Yeah, I've seen some educational videos on this, and it's very complex.
Yeah, but yeah, besides that, like everything else, pretty much holds up.
But as a white person, I'm going to continue to say indigenous and Native Americans, and just be on the side of caution.
Right. Although it is a good joke that they set up where Marty is like, oh well, I'm gonna run into those the Indians on the wall if I just go head first into it. And Doc's like, no, you're gonna time travel. They won't be there.
And then they're there.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course. What can go wrong?
It was really nice that they like thought of details. Like, hey, were there trees here to run into?
Right.
100 years ago.
Will there be train tracks here?
Exactly.
100 years from now.
Yeah. No, they were like really, really well thought out things. That again, I don't mean to harp on this, but like I just feel like a lot of movies they're just like pass. They're like, we don't care, whatever.
Well, Doc Brown's smart.
I know he's so smart.
He's a very smart scientist.
I do like that. Literally every single time he says, according to my calculations, genuinely he's done the math and his calculations are correct.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and he even did a scale model. Oh, not to scale, but
not to scale, Mike. They made a very, very pointed point to make sure that it's not to scale.
That's another recurring thing in the previous films where he builds a not to scale model. But I like the detail that he makes it a working model.
Of
it's
course.
not just to look at.
Yeah,
like the train actually powers and like things happen, and then the first one like it catches on fire. And yeah, his little model of the school area.
He's not half-assing this.
No.
He whole asses it.
Always.
Yeah.
Got to. One thing I wanted to ask you about is, what did you think of the portrayal of Clara? Because this movie would actually be incredibly boring without her character in it.
Yeah.
She basically makes the plot interesting. She throws kind of a monkey wrench into things.
Yeah.
And then also kind of helps out in other ways later. Because basically, if her character's not in the film, Mario goes back in time and meets up with Doc, and they, don't do any of the other things. They don't go to the festival. They don't have the feud.
They just lie low for a weekend.
Yeah, they lie low for 5 days, go rob a train, borrow a train for a science experiment.
Yeah, which is a great line, by the way.
Right. Is this a holdup? No, it's a science experiment. Yeah, fantastic. And then they go back to their time, and then that's it. But Clara comes along and not only motivates all the plot decisions, but also like the character beats and arcs. Because I feel like this is really Doc's movie. It's a lot about him and his way of thinking changing.
Yeah.
Instead of just being strictly scientific all the time, to allowing room for human emotions.
He has human emotions, but he just hasn't experienced love yet.
Yeah.
I mean, my only issue is I never like insta love, where it's like love at first sight.
Yeah.
I'm just never on board with that. But I actually really like Clara's character. She is very self-possessed. She knows what she likes. She knows what she wants. She speaks her mind. And she also isn't afraid to, number one, she sees when a situation is bad and what needs to be done. So like when Biff is like threatening Doc at the dance with his little Derringer, however you pronounce that.
One of those, yeah.
Like she steps in and she's like, look, no, like, fine, I'll dance with you. And like, yes, there could be an argument to be made of like, oh, she's sort of like, giving into a bully, but like, what else is going to happen? She's just going to like let Doc get shot. Like,
right.
So she's brave, even though she knows that like this guy's a piece of dirt.
Yeah.
And I like her. I like her character.
Made of dirt, practically. Yeah.
I mean, he definitely needed a bath.
Yeah.
They had a bathhouse right there. And a barber in the same place.
Yeah, he didn't bother.
Yeah, no. But, I like her a lot, and she says exactly what she thinks. She doesn't mince her words. Like when Doc tells her the story of like, I'm from the future and I have to come back tomorrow.
Yes.
And she's completely forthright with him. Like, that's really insulting that you think I would believe you. And of course, it's like, it's the truth. But like, yeah, like no words are minced. No sugarcoating is done. I like it.
Yeah. Obviously, her being there causes the whole interaction at the festival.
Yeah.
Which leads to the standoff at high noon or high 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Or 7:55, whatever time. And Doc having to, say goodbye to her, but her not believing him sends him spiraling. But then it also sends her kind of spiraling, and she gets on the train they're going to hijack.
Yeah.
And then because they're delayed by the shootout and Doc drinking one whiskey because he can't handle his liquor at all.
No, he can't handle like even a drop of liquor.
He just stares at it all night and then does one shot and he's on the floor.
Yeah.
But she stops the train.
Yeah.
So earlier they were talking about like, oh yeah, 8 o'clock. Marty's like, we'll be gone. That's why I set it for 8 o'clock. And then Doc's like, well, what if the train's late? And Marty's like, wait, what? That can be a thing.
Right. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Like that could possibly happen. Now, like, and I know that it's kind of a joke for us because at least here in the US, trains are late all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And in England too.
Sure.
I mean, you get into other countries like Germany and stuff, and it's they run a little bit of a tighter ship, but we've been on a train that was delayed in Germany.
Yeah.
So it does happen.
It can happen.
It's kind of a joke though, like, yeah, trains are late kind of all the time.
Right.
But no, I like that. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. And then the train being late ends up being a good thing for them.
Yeah.
But it's delayed because of her.
Yeah.
Because she pulls the stop.
Right.
To get off the train.
It all works out so nice and neat.
It does. The whole movie's a Rube Goldberg. That's
yeah,
what
it really is. You're not wrong.
All the pieces fall in place.
Yeah. I kind of like that way of thinking about writing, is that like one thing affects another,
Mm-hmm.
but also their choices are having a profound effect on what happens. Like when Doc drinks his drink, he then passes out. Oh no, we have a new wrinkle.
Right.
I like it. I like this way of thinking about writing.
And it's not just random things happen to them. The things that happen that end up being the roadblocks are things that they do that are like a consequence of their character.
I love a good consequence.
Yes. But like, even Doc wanting to go say goodbye to her. Like he didn't have to do that, but that threw a wrinkle into things. But that was true to his character that he would want to do that.
Because he loves her.
He did.
Instantly.
Even he was poo-pooing love at first sight like 5 minutes before it happened to him.
I know. Blah. Sorry, I'm very much a romantic about a lot of things, just not that.
All right. Before we get to the end, any other like little things or thoughts that you wanted to bring up or talk about or mention about this film?
His cowboy shirt had Adams on it.
Did it?
Did you not see?
No, I didn't notice that.
Oh my gosh. He had there were Adams on the sleeves and there were Adams all around the shoulders.
How did I never notice that?
Oh my gosh. It was so awesome. Like I guarantee you can find that shirt somewhere and buy it.
That makes me want to turn the movie back on and check again.
No, seriously. Like they're right
that.
there on the shoulders.
What?
It's so fun.
That is a wild. I've seen this movie like 50 times. I never noticed that.
Isn't
That's
it
crazy.
Fun? This is why we do this.
You see it like 3 times and notice things. That's incredible.
I'm not even sure this is the third. It's one of those films where I may have watched it, like sat down and actually watched the whole thing at one point in history. But otherwise, it's mostly been like kind of passing through a room when it was on the TV. So, yeah. I'm just trying to see if I have any other notes about anything. Oh, yeah, there's one more thing.
Okay.
Oh, just like I sort of squeed a little bit. See, I am romantic about some things.
Right.
Like,
just not romance.
No, just not insta-love. Insta-love is dumb. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, so like when they connect over Jules Verne, like there is possibly
that was sweet. That was a very sweet moment.
There's just like no deeper connection than when you like connect with someone over a book. I don't know what it is. Like, it's not the same as a movie. It's not the same as a TV show or any other experience. But like when you've both like lived in that world, the world of the book, and been with those characters, and then you come out of it and you've just had this life-changing experience. And then you also find someone else who's also had that life-changing experience who like gets it. Oh my gosh. I love that feeling. I love finding people who are also in love with the same books that I am.
Yeah. I feel like that was actually the moment in the story where they for real fall in love.
I think you're right. I changed my vote. Yes, that is, I totally agree. Yeah.
I wrote that.
And before it was just like, oh wow, like adrenaline or whatever. And like, we're not dead. Hooray. That's, I agree. I agree with you. That's new headcanon.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When they meet, it's like, thank you for saving my life. We've been through this traumatic experience. Also, I like the cut of your jib.
There you go.
You know,
trauma bonding.
Right. And they find each other attractive in, personality and appearance.
Yeah.
And then when they get to know each other on that deeper level is when they're like, this is my person.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a couple of things that were callbacks.
Okay.
To other things in previous. There's probably more that even I didn't catch or write down. There was obviously Marty being called chicken or yella or got no gumption.
Right.
That's his thing throughout all the films. His major character flaw is that if you say that he's scared or chicken to do something, then he will prove you wrong by being an idiot.
Yeah, I remember that.
Which he reverses at the very end when he doesn't do the drag race and get into the wreck that would have led to the alternate future from Back to the Future Part 2.
Yeah.
Where Flea plays the character Needles.
What a name too.
It's a great character name.
I like the name Needles. I want to put that in something. Needles.
And it's such a good like punk name.
Yeah.
Right. And Flea does it well. He's just like, I'm a big punk, like, I'm bossing you around. And then in Part 2, he's his boss.
Yeah.
Who talks him into doing the thing that gets him fired. So now this reverses that whole course.
Right.
Right. We mentioned Strickland. The thing where Tannen gets some sort of phrase wrong. Like, shoot him like a duck.
Oh, right.
When his henchman's like, you mean shoot him like a dog, right? Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Make like a tree and get out of here.
Yeah.
Like a screen door on a battleship.
What's that one?
That's the one he says in the first film.
I don't remember. Screen door in a battleship?
It's supposed to be screen door in a submarine. That's a phrase.
Oh.
Yeah, like useless as a screen door on a submarine.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Is a phrase. But he says screen door on a battleship.
Cool.
So he gets it wrong.
I almost said I've never been on a submarine, but I actually think I have been on a submarine before. Like on a tour.
I guarantee it didn't have a screen door.
That it did not. You're very correct. Well done. It's like you were there. You might have been. Also, can we just all agree, like, a completely legitimate argument is he's a hole. Like,
yeah.
That has the same energy as, and I'm not trying to be political here, this is just a thing that happened. Like when some news reporter was asking Pete Buttigieg 4 years ago or whatever during the election.
Right.
Like, oh, Trump said blah, blah, blah about you. And Pete Buttigieg started to like answer with something diplomatic. And he's just like, he's an idiot. Like, who cares?
Right.
Who cares?
Who cares what that guy thinks?
Yeah, it had like that same energy.
Yeah.
So, and that's a perfectly valid answer.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Other things where Marty picks up the Colt and gives a shooting expedition.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Exhibition. Words and stuff.
Words are hard. It's okay.
And the guy's like, where'd you learn to shoot like that? He's like, oh, 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Because he played Duck Hunt or whatever the game was in the original one.
Right.
And
which duck, like shooting him like a duck kind of makes sense since, was Duck Hunt out by then? I remember we got a Nintendo when I was 5.
Yeah.
I don't know if Duck Hunt was.
It wasn't actually Duck Hunt in the film. It was like some other version of that.
Oh, was it? Okay, I don't know.
Or was it? Okay.
I don't know.
I'm going to be wrong one way or the other.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm paralyzed. I can't figure out what to say. I don't want to be wrong on a podcast.
Because it exists forever, Mike.
Yeah.
People will come after you. Actually.
Unless I edit this part out. We'll see.
Yeah.
I am the editor, so we'll see what I decide later. Oh, and then the ending thing with the manure where
it's so gross. I hate that scene. It gets in his mouth.
A tannin falls in manure
so gross.
And gets it in his mouth in all 3 films. That is what happens.
I don't like it.
I know it's gross.
I know it's gross.
But he deserves it, man.
I know, but still, it's so gross. It's bad enough to like it for it to touch you, but for it to like be in your mouth. I hate it.
Oh, and then the beginning thing where Marty wakes up in bed and it's the actress that plays his mom, Leah Thompson. She
was at Huntsville Con. I was at last year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still getting checks.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, the con circuit can really do a nice job for people.
Yeah. So yeah, he wakes up to Leah Thompson in every time frame.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either. That's very funny.
That is what happens. Any other little moments or things?
No, I'm really pleasantly surprised at this film, and I had a really good time.
I had a great time too. I like the part in the beginning where Marty is explaining everything to Doc, and Doc falls backwards on the organ and it starts playing ominous music.
Oh, right. Oh,
I love a good musical cue that's built into the scene.
Yeah.
That's really good. And all the other things, everything has a setup. The thing with the spittoon.
Yeah.
They show someone just using it randomly, and then it comes back like in a few minutes when they have that fight.
Chekov's spittoon.
Yep. There's lots of Chekov's everything. This is like almost every scene of this film, there's a Chekov something. It gets placed there. It's for a reason. It's not always like highlighted.
Yeah.
But it's there. Everything is there. The Frisbee is there.
Oh yeah. That was fun. That was a fun use of what you have around you.
Yeah. Why would you run for fun? The old guys talking.
There's that certain voice as well. I don't know if it came before this or if this sort of established the trope, but that voice of like an old cowboy being like, they talk kind of like this with a real shaky, high-pitched voice. And I don't know why this exists.
I don't know
but it's a
what
thing.
You mean. What you're talking about.
It's just like, I don't know like where this was established, but it's kind of like in the same way that Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None established that murder mystery trope of like a whole bunch of strangers are invited to like a big house and then they start getting picked off one by one. Like she started that. And I wonder if like this film started that weird cowboy talk trope.
I don't think so.
Probably not. It probably existed elsewhere, but I don't know.
I think that Spielberg and Zemeckis just watched a lot of Clint Eastwood movies.
Oh, do you think there's a guy in there?
Pulled things from that.
Yeah.
I have not seen very much Clint Eastwood at all, so I'm not sure. I'm just imagining that they just pulled things directly from that because they're like, we're playing in the Old West. Let's even just have Marty call himself Clint Eastwood.
Because why not?
Right? Because he doesn't want to give his real name to the McFly family.
I should ask my granddad, but he doesn't really get my sense of humor, so I don't know if it's going to come across. Because he's watched a lot of Clint Eastwood.
Speaking of Clint Eastwood, that's one thing, a detail. I had a question. And a little sequence that will lead up to that question.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was pretty funny. So he named himself Clint Eastwood because he had to think of a name that would work in the Old West in his mind.
Yeah.
And then at the end, where he's in the saloon and Mad Dog is calling him out, he's like, you got to come out here. And Marty's like, well, what if I don't go out there? And the people in the bar are like, well, then everybody's going to think that Clint Eastwood was the biggest ninny in the West or whatever it is they said. And in that moment, it's like, wait, so does Marty feel like he has to defend the name of Clint Eastwood in the Old West? Like, is that part of why he has to
This
go
is how
out?
he's going to change the future, is that no one's ever going to write movies with Clint Eastwood.
Exactly. So, because he succeeds and becomes a legend and has the canyon named Eastwood Ravine, is Clint Eastwood in our universe named after Marty McFly calling himself Clint Eastwood?
I would be totally on board with this, except we have established this is not a loop film as far as time travel.
No, but some things stay consistent and not everything is like changed completely.
I don't know. Can you have it both ways?
I think you can.
I don't know.
Okay, I don't want to get too far into it because this is a whole other podcast, but like, I think the time travel in Back to the Future is not loops, but it's like branching timelines. And so like when Marty does something from his timeline and changes something into a future, like he is kind of crossing streams into a different timeline.
I
now.
Absolutely will not be participating in a metaverse conversation.
It's not multiverse. It's just he is like crossing streams into different timelines that are branching, because that's how Doc explains it in the second film.
No.
It would all make sense that way.
I just got disappointed by a film, or rather a series, with that. I won't say, because not everyone's seen it yet, and it's too close, and that's not what this podcast is about. But no, I refuse to accept this. I debunk your argument thusly with no.
What, we can't spend the next 45 minutes arguing about time travel theories?
I don't know. I will not have a multiverse conversation.
Okay, fine. I guess I'll have to start my own podcast. Time travel movies with Mike.
Oh.
I have to do it by myself.
Just one dude talking in the microphone.
Argue with myself about the time streams and lines and everything.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
I love you, but I hate this idea.
Well, at least the stunts in this movie were real.
Oh, were they?
Well, you could tell everything was like done for real, except for the hoverboard part, that was fake.
And the train did not actually fly.
Well, yeah, but it's probably a model.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, it was probably some sort of model that they shot. Maybe the train at the end, that might have been CGI.
I don't think so, because the CGI they did have was very bad, and I don't think they had the ability to make a CGI train that looked that bad. Like, that train looked really good. Yeah. I think that was like they built whatever that was.
Probably some combination. Yeah, they had to build at least a model of it. Yeah. But yeah, this was also a contrast to, we just watched the newest, what's his face, Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah.
In watching that, this felt like a breath of fresh air, in the sense that, traditional Indiana Jones, they had scenes of like people climbing on trains and like riding horses in the Old West. And the newest Indiana Jones, you didn't really have those scenes because everything was so cut tightly, and like Harrison Ford is old now. Like, there was so little that was actually in camera. There was a lot of blue screen and effects and stuff. But this movie was like, that's someone riding a horse. That's someone actually climbing on top of a train. It was so much fun.
Yeah. I mean, give Harrison Ford a break. He's done a lot of stunts in his life.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well. Anyway, on this podcast, at the end,
yes,
we give a rating.
Yep.
Not based on our amateur critic brains and what we think of the CGI or anything like that.
Right.
But just on how much we enjoyed it. But first, how steampunk is this movie, Dana? We are going to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5 steam engines. How steampunk is Back to the Future Part 3.
Okay, I'm going to use the sportsy term. I hope I'm using this correctly.
Strap in, folks.
I think this was an upset.
An upset?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I went into this thinking it was going to be 1.
Wow.
Just 1.
Wow.
Like, I only remembered the train.
You didn't remember much at all.
No, I didn't. And then we had like all of these cool gadgets and all the fashion and such good attention to detail. So I'm going to give it... It's close. Okay.
If you say anything less than 5, I'm disappointed.
Oh my gosh. I'm allowed to say what I'm going to say. Me and Claire, we're going to start a club. Say what we want to say. Okay. This is not a bad rating.
Okay.
I'm only going to give it 3 out of 5.
I protest.
And here's why.
You better have a good reason.
A lot of the film, a lot of the beginning specifically, and a bit of the end.
Okay.
It takes place in our own time. Well, in the 80s.
Well, yeah.
And
the 1980s.
Yes.
The whole film takes place in the 80s.
You're not wrong. Well, part of it takes place in 1955 as well.
Okay, you're right. There's a little bit.
So, but we have some like modern day stuff, and that does take me out of things a little bit. Like, I was so happy when I was in the Old West hanging out with them. When we went back to 1985, I was kind of like, oh yeah, we're here. Like, it was just like a little bit of a letdown because I was having such a good time in the Old West.
Well, it was just the closing of the loops of the stories and the trilogy and everything.
And so the era is correct, but we didn't have nearly as many steampunk gadgets as I would want to give it a 5 or a 4 or a 5. So I'm only giving it a 3, but I want to say that's not a bad score.
Did this movie have more or fewer steampunk gadgets than The Muppet Christmas Carol?
Okay.
Which you gave a 5.
Do I need to give another TED Talk on that?
Can we compromise and say 4, please?
Okay.
All right.
4.
All right.
Since that is how the law of averages works.
Yes. All right. In my mind, it's a 5, but okay.
Okay.
We can compromise. You are an expert in the genre.
I am an expert in the genre.
All right. Well, now the rating for how much did you enjoy the film? How much fun did you have? What did you think, Dana? 1 to 5 gears.
Oh, 5 of 5. I had a grand time.
I did too. I'm giving it 5 top hats for me. 5 out of 5 top hats. Great. Lots of fun. Enjoyed it. It was everything that I wanted this evening to be, for us to watch this film and have fun and laugh and talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any parting thoughts, Dana?
Puff sleeves. My gosh, I love a puff sleeve. More puff sleeves everywhere.
We'll work on that. And if anyone listening has any final thoughts or suggestions or corrections to stuff I'm sure we got wrong, please let us know. You can reach us on our social medias. On Twitter, we are at SteamPoweredPod. On Threads and Instagram, we are Steam-Powered Movies. You can go to steampoweredmovies.com for past and present episodes and more information about all of the goings-on and everything. Thank you so much for listening. If you do send us a suggestion for a film to watch, we'll give you a shout-out.
Yep. So
please hit us up with any of those suggestions. Maybe we'll cover it in this new year of 2024. So join us for this exciting new year of the podcast. And thank you. And we will see you again next time. Okay, bye.
Bye.